Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys doing this morning? Let me go ahead and move these Patreon comments over here so I can see them. There we go. All right. Let everybody give everybody a moment to start getting in on the Patreon so we can get started. Good morning, you guys. Good morning. And if any of you guys missed that live last night, that was just me going live because I had not been on the charts and I was just doing a check-in. I was just seeing here reading a comment on what was that? I was asking about that had nothing to do with the $100 to $1,000 challenge in terms of entering a trade. Okay, that was just we talked a little bit about it, but it was not entering a trade or anything. It was after I'm talking about. It was late. It was later when we got on live, but it was just to catch up really quickly and go to the charts and look at a few things since I did not was not able to do the pre-market live yesterday. So that's all that was. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna give it another few minutes and we're gonna be getting started on this thing. And I'm gonna do a quick recap of what we talked about last night. For those who were not on that live, just mostly looking at a little news that took place yesterday. And then looked at a few stocks. Nothing heavy, nothing heavy. Let me see. Good morning, good morning. There you go. Texas. Let's see. All right, let me get this thing set. Good morning. Good morning. Let me get let me come over here. There we go. All right, so we're gonna get started. I'm trying to help someone. They're not able to get on the live. Let's see. Yes. All right, there we go. Okay, now let's get into these charts. But real quick, just a few things that I talked about in that live last night. Was just looking at Amazon has decided that they want to launch a GLP-1 program, a part of Amazon One Medical. And so we already know that HIMS and who else? MRK are two that has been really leading that GLP-1 and that Wegovy and all of the weight loss program. They've been kind of on the forefront of that, primarily HIMS. And so they dropped 4 or 5% from that news of Amazon launching their own GLP-1 and weight loss management program. So that was one of the things that we kind of talked about last night. And then we were also kind of looking at the fact that Paramount, of course, is attempting to take on Warner Bros. And because of the merger and the size of the merger and the things that they are going to be, and the number of channels, the number of networks, the number of streaming services, well, I would say streaming services, but the size of the catalog that they're going to be taking on, they are trying to fight this merger because it would really, when it kind of, we look at this whole monopoly thing, okay, where they control so much of the media, of course, cutting down on the competition and all those things. We already know they attempt to step in to try to kill the merger because they just feel like there's too much control from one company, one individual, and one family, if we're really looking at it, which is looking at, David and Larry Ellison. Well, David is Larry's son. So under one family, all of that control under that one single family there. Okay. So they've been trying to stop that. We did look at Paramount stock, but nothing that, really interesting here for real. They're sitting at $11 at this moment. And right now, when I just say not interested, it's just a matter of it doesn't, of course, give us enough movement to really be interested in anything. Unless it's long term. It doesn't move extremely, extremely heavy, but since this whole thing with the merger coming about, we have been seeing it actually move a bit. And so I'm bring this back out some. And so as you can see, things were a bit iffy for a while, and then we start to kind of pick up 2025, and then with these merger announcements, how that's been going. So not too exciting on this right now, but I have been keeping my eye on it just in case, but haven't been making any moves on that. And so we looked at that. Let me see, what else were we looking at last night? And some things I forgot to mention too. QVC is filing bankruptcy. QVC is on the market, but they are now facing being delisted because let's come over here. And as you know, when you are when a stock is on the market, they have to maintain a certain price per share in order to stay listed. And right now, what are we sitting at in this pre-market? 42 cents on QVC. And they dropped from that highest point, which is around April 15th, which is around $3.26. Okay. Good morning, you guys. Good morning. And so with that, as we know, that's a good chance that they can come out. But we already know who's the new QVC. The new QVC right at this moment is TikTok. because everything on TikTok is just a shopping channel. Every 4 or 5 videos when we're scrolling, somebody is selling something from the TikTok shop or they're advertising something. And so that right there is literally what we've been seeing. That's all we've been seeing. And so that's why I think too, of course, QVC is just not seeing the sales like that it used to, because I mean, even if I'm not mistaken, my grandmother bought a few things off TikTok shop. And you already know when they get the shipping from that QVC, we already know who was on them channel doing the most buying back in the day. But shopping has really made a pivot into the digital space versus like television or even in their digital streamings. But TikTok shop, we're seeing live shopping apps pop up. I think one of them is called Whatnot. And so that space is really shifting. And I don't think QVC quite pivoted with the times a bit to be able to kind of keep up with how things are going on that. So nothing I'm interested in seeing here on these charts with QVC, but let's start out, pull that up. Spirit Airlines is looking for a bailout from the Trump administration because they are on the brink of actually shutting down. And so I don't know how many of you guys kept up with it when Spirit Airlines first announced that they were going to be filing for bankruptcy. And so when that happened, Spirit Airlines really came down, and I was actually able to get into a put on that one. That was some time back when they first announced applying for bankruptcy. They went all the way down, if I'm not mistaken, to about 26 cents. They went very, very low. And so it got to a point they stopped all trading altogether on Spirit Airlines. Only thing you could do was sell off your position. You couldn't add to it, couldn't trade no more. Then they were moved, Robinhood moved it from the standard listing to like a OTC listing before they even took the whole thing down, because I don't think you can even trade over-the-counter stocks on Robinhood. And so they took that off altogether. And so that's where they are right now. And so they're trying to get a bailout at this moment so that, I guess, of course, to keep from shutting down. So that's going to be something we can just kind of keep our eye on, because the reason I'm still kind of watching that news, because we still got American Airlines, we got Delta, we got others that may possibly see some impact from that in terms of the Spirit shutdown, that demand or that revenue will shift to other airlines. So we'll see how that plays out and kind of keep the other airlines on our radar. American Airlines sitting at $11.85. Let me see what Delta is sitting at right now. They're sitting at $70.35. So we're going to keep our eyes on those two as we see if they're able to get a bailout of some sort. So we're going to come back to them. Probably, I would say I give it take probably like next week sometime. Kind of let that thing kind of play out and see if the Trump administration actually bails out Spirit. So we'll see. So let me come over here and let's go back to and look at SPY, see where we're sitting at. Now, those levels, let me go up to that hour. We're sitting at 707. Monday's pre-market live, we talked about them revisiting back to around that 705, 701, and breaking down to come back to this 697. Those lower levels do still stand, because as of right now, they did come down. That lowest point that they hit was around 702.65. And so now I want to see if they can test that 701. If they're able to test 701, then that opens the door for them to start coming on down a little bit more. They came down, and you notice they got that gap filled perfectly and then pushed right back up. Okay. And so that right there is kind of what I'll be watching for today. They did make their way back up. Over here, let's see, that's in that 707.04 in the pre-market, and we have some slight resistance up around this area up in here. Okay, so that gap here, well, fair value gap rather, right up in here. And so they can break above that 708.19. Look to see that they go and test 709.75. They break above that, then we can start seeing that they push a little bit higher, 711, 712 to that all-time high. Okay, so let me take this back off. So they do that, but if they decide to start making their way down, as you guys can see, we still have those same little points here at around that 705 area, right up in here, and breaking down that, they can start retesting a bit lower, coming down to that 703, 702, and 701. So those same areas for Monday that we kind of mapped out from when, seeing these highs up here from last week, they are still standing at this moment. And even though they were pretty much touched, we just got to kind of see how they break down. If it starts getting too high towards that 712, of course, getting up in here, I'm still not interested in playing the upside, because when we get up there to that upside with no data, all-time highs, I don't really mess with it too much. But that's why I said let a pullback take place. So then we got some levels to actually target to the upside when you are looking to trade it. Okay. And with this here, it's very, very nice. So we got some levels if you decide to make a move on this thing to actually target upside and downside. Right. And QQQ, just about the same. Well, in terms of hitting new highs, their high is 650.20. And so that right there, of course, we came down, we got right back up in this little area here that we mapped out on Monday, and they came down. They didn't fully fill the gap, so they still got a little bit down there that needs to be filled on this gap here on QQQ. But if they continue to hold where they are, then look to see that they're going to attempt to retest that 650.20. Because this is the all-time high, I'm not interested in, I wouldn't be interested in trying to trade nothing up there because we ain't got nothing up here. So if they do hit up here, we see some rejection. We can see we've been kind of rejecting along those lines up here. It hits 650, comes back down, potentially some opportunity to that downside to start retargeting those lower levels. And I would say 650 rejection, come back down to around that 648. It comes below 648. I would say look around for around 644, come a little bit lower. But we break below this lowest point down here at around this 642. They can finish getting this gap filled here, and we see if they hold up at the bottom of the gap. Okay, so we are still nearing those all-time highs there. So I would definitely say go easy with how you move on that. Okay, corn. Now, corn is another one we talked about last night that I wanted to, let me go up to this higher time frame to show you guys just something to kind of watch as we see where it goes. The main thing was this little triple bottom, these triple touches down here at around that 142 area. This was the last time I traded. This one was back in February when we retested this same area here again. Okay. And so this right up in here is what we have now. You see, we got these touches here at this same little 215 little area right up in here. And we came down. And so now I'm looking to see if they are going to come back and retest around this 194, 189. But we're sitting at 204.46 in this pre-market. So it would be nice to see if we do retest this 215 area, if we're able to break above it. If we can break above it, especially seeing a retest, and then start pushing a bit higher, that could be an opportunity there for corn. And then if they go back to 215, we get another rejection here, then I will then start targeting these levels around at 206, and then coming back down a little bit further to around at 195, 189. And so right now, they are being sued for their predictions market. And just as I said last night, we are probably going to see a lot of lawsuits kind of start to spread across prediction markets. I mean, because you can bet on anything, and the way a lot of the politicians are seeing it is basically saying, okay, they kind of see it as gambling. And because they kind of feel like it's gambling, they just think of it as another, how can I put it, another word for the casino. And so with that, they are going to be facing some lawsuits. So Coinbase is one of them. Somebody said they pronounce it Kalshi, Kal. The new one that just came out, they have a pretty massive predictions platform. We know Robinhood have their prediction market. And so we'll see how this thing kind of plays out, okay? They're going to be suing in the federal court in New York to fend off lawsuits seeking fines, profit for features and customer payouts. So that's one. And then we have the others who don't like the fact that these things are just online casinos being masked. That's just standard prediction. All right, we can bet on Fed rate cuts. We can bet on elections. You can bet on sports. I mean, we already know sports betting was a thing, of course, but it expanded. And I don't really think they're liking it too much. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm kind of long-term on coin. And so when it comes to that, I definitely would love to see that 215 get tested to see what happens there. And if we can or break above that, see what that reaction looks like there. If not, see that we can come down some more. I would love to see us come back down to this 142 area and potentially a rinse and repeat opportunity there to see how well that holds up. And even if it breaks down, that could potentially be some opportunity there because it will likely come down a little bit more. It just all depends before jumping in. And that area I would be looking at is right around here. Let me bring that in some. Where you can see where we had some support around that area, some resistance there, here, and the same little area up in here. So around that 214, 215 area is where I would love to see it come for a longer term trade to ride it up. Okay, so I will put that on you guys' radar to kind of keep your eyes on to see which one of those levels get hit and how that reaction goes. Okay, now let's look at what else did I have on my list to look at? CoreWeave. So CoreWeave, as we know, what is that ticker? CRWV. I'm going to show you guys what I'm looking at on this one. So I have been tracking this. I have been doing this little trend line on this one for a while to kind of see if we could get a break above it. And so this one here, we got a floor price at around 64.51, but it breaking down that, then our lowest floor price is the lowest the stock has ever been, which is around $33.52, which is right up in here. Okay, but it's been holding here since it broke out around, May 2025, and we've kind of held above that. Now, what I'm looking to see is now that we've gotten this break from this trend line here, I'm wanting to see if we can get a potential retest back down here. If we can get a retest here, then I would look for an opportunity to make a move and ride this thing back up to around that 122 being the highest target on this thing. And so with where we are right now, we're sitting at 118.01. And so right up in here, as you can see, we had a rejection at that 122. So I'm curious to see if we're going to break above that. If we can break above it, which would kind of give us a higher low. Let me bring this back up. So we've got this breakout. Even if we don't retest all the way back down, we break above 122 and then we retest 122, giving us a higher low. That could also be opportunity to make a move and ride this thing up, even if it does not retest all the way back down at the trend line. And so this one here, I've just been kind of waiting it out to see how that's going to kind of play out. So a retest at the trend line or a break above 122 would be the two areas that I would be looking to make a move on this. So definitely thought I would kind of bring this one I mean, we could day trade this, of course, but I've just been looking at this for something longer term and something to hold. And so those would be the two ideal areas of entry for me, right? Retest or a retest here at that trend line to see how that goes, okay? So we will be revisiting this one as well. They are, of course, extended their partnership with Meta. And so they are definitely one that I've been keeping on that board to kind of see how that plays out with us getting those levels in to kind of make a move. I'm probably going to do something like, I was thinking anywhere between maybe like 30 days to maybe like 30, 60 days on the expiration for it. A couple of contracts, maybe like 3 to 5 contracts on it, and just kind of hold it and just let it play out, especially if we can get a break above 122 and just let it run. Okay, so that will be something I'll be bringing to the Patreon as well with a trade plan once we get some clear confirmation on what it's going to do, a break or a retest. And I probably would actually bring it before then so that, you guys can remember to keep watch of it for when it breaks either one of those levels or retest that. Okay, so we did talk about CoreWeave last night so that we could keep our eyes on that one. Now, let's look at Apple. Now, as we know, Tim Cook is stepping down as CEO in September September 1st, I believe he said. And so we didn't see like a massive slide happen with Apple, but they did come down, okay? And so right now, let me see. We are sitting at 467 in this here pre-market. And let's see, what was that level? I'm trying to take all of this off. I was explaining it, and I got all of this stuff written up on here. So we are sitting at 667, and I would love to see if Apple can get back down to around 263 to 261 and actually get into a long run, this one to hold for about 4 to 6 weeks and just kind of ride it back up to around that 267 to around 280. Okay, which is where we saw this previous rejection up in this area. So in order for me to feel comfortable to actually hold it, to get in and really ride up to this highest level, is us coming back down to that 261 for entry. And if we can hold up there, we do got this gap that needs to be filled here. So with them filling that gap, which is down at about 264.25, then we could probably see them potentially hold up there. If not, then 263 and 261 would be next if it breaks down that level. And so that's what I'm kind of waiting on with Apple at this moment. Okay, that would be my core entry spot there if we can get back down there. Okay, so let me see. SoFi, yeah, we'll look at SoFi. I actually have SoFi on the board for us to look at to keep watch of for the $100 to $1,000 challenge. So I'm going to be looking at that one. So keep those little levels on Apple. And then I also mentioned that this little kind of cut here. Let me bring that to the daily time frame. Bring it up. And kind of seeing how this thing here plays out, with also seeing that they retest back up here at around that 276. And then we may see some rejection there. This thing comes down, possibly retesting that 263 and 261. And then we get that breakout from that handle, and we can see if they attempt to push back up, break above that 276, and then retest that highest point here, which is where I have that box at around 280. So that was something else to kind of keep on your radar. This cup here forming on this daily time frame. See how this kind of goes. If it does get back there, you can enter at that support area. As you guys can see where I was kind of looking at for this thing to potentially stop out up in here. We can enter there, or you can enter on the breakout. Of course, the safest is usually entering on the breakout, but hey, whatever your game plan is, if you decide to come over here and look at this, then of course stick to that. But those are just two options, support order breakout from the handle if it does give us a clean handle with how this thing moves, rejecting that 276. Okay, so that's something there to keep in mind with you trading Apple. Okay, and let me see. Let me take that out. Let me see. And then also with I'm like I was saying last night, I was curious to see how the new CEO was going to come in and fill Tim's shoes, because when we first when he first took on the role at Apple, they were sitting at about 350 billion on the market cap, and now they're up 4 trillion. That's over 15 years. Now, the way I see it, it's 15 years of Tim releasing the same phone over and over again. But hey, whatever works, works. And he got them to a $4 trillion market cap, so I guess. So I got a Galaxy. I've been off iPhone for a while, so I got sick of the same thing being released. So now we're gonna have to see how the new CEO leads this thing and where it goes from there. So on SoFi, let's look at where we are, 1929. And this little block here that I think I put this here in one of our previous lives, and where I'm wanting to see SoFi break above, which is at the highest point around 2014. And if we can break and hold above that, where we have, as you can see here, we had some hold there. We had that rejection and that rejection here. We can push up to around $22 even. That would be that next level that I would be looking for, with a solid hold over that 1957 and over this point here at around 2014. So I would love to see it break out of this little zone here in order to push on up to 22. I never look at this one as a day trading thing. Because not too often, unless it's at like a really, really good level to where, of course, it can make a decent move, but SoFi it's not a heavy mover unless it's just something going on the day. But even if something is going on in the day, it's not a big move. Mere dollar, probably. Well, a dollar and some change, just depends. And so with this one here, it was one or two things. We come back and retest at this 1807 area, hold up their target 1957 and that $20 area and higher. They break down 1807, then I was looking to see if they were going to try to get this little gap filled here, which would be that little target area right up in here. And that lowest point, that's what, let's see, 1706 would be that little floor part here from that gap. See if they hold there and start to push higher. We target 1807 and 1957. Breaking down that, then this little area here that we have here will be that next area down, potentially 15 and 1493. So that's kind of what I'm watching for now, especially with this gap that we have so close, seeing if they can get down there and get that thing filled. And if they can, perfect. And possibly look for some opportunity of entry there. But right now, I'm just really waiting to see if they can break over that 1957. And if they can, and they can hold firmly, we can get out of this part here. And we can start seeing this thing push a little bit higher. And another thing to kind of point out with this here is that we have this potential head and shoulders forming here. And so we could either come down here to around this little 1807, or we can come down here, get that gap filled, potentially the shoulder stop there, which would align with the left shoulder as well, and then start pushing back up. But as usual, you know, the shoulders won't always align, but in this case, there's a possibility if they come in, get that gap fill, then we have that. And so you can also see why I'm also watching that $15 area is because it would kind of, not 15, I'm sorry, that $20 area, because breaking above that would give us a neckline break. And then we can begin to see this thing go higher. And now we have a $22 target on the charts, okay? So just a few things to watch to see how that kind of plays out. And getting back down here in this will actually be perfect to get it as low as possible. See a nice and firm hold up, and then this thing begins to move back up. start giving us some higher lows and just keeping this thing moving. And as you know, I talk a lot about SoFi, and I've been upping them shares on this thing, and I do a ton of covered calls on SoFi as well. So when we start getting too low, I get to watching. I get to watching. As long as we're not getting back to them sixes, I be calm. But even if we do, I'm probably still gonna buy more shares on this thing. So we'll just see how this thing here plays out. But I don't think we're gonna get too low in terms of going back to the sixes, getting back to those sixes, but who knows? But right now, that lowest point we hit was that 1493 down there, and we were able to hold pretty steady there and come back up. So SoFi is definitely one of my favorites on that one. Mostly to do covered calls, but I still go gentle with my covered calls too, because there's been times where I have lost my 100 shares, and I don't like losing them because of how cheap I got them. And so that's where I stand with them. And we're going to keep this one on our radar for the $100 to $1,000 challenge as well, especially if we can get a break or we get a retest. Either one, whichever one hits us first, and long as it's solid and gives us something good to move on, then this will also be up there with hymns that we're looking at, and also Nike. Okay, so that's on SoFi. Now let's really quickly look at Nike and see where we are. So Nike is still playing along the $46 level, which is 46.46 in this free market. They still got this gap that needs to be filled here. And just as I said before, wanting to see them retest 44.22. They can break that down. I'm looking for a potential test to where they came down here around that $42, or the best is around 40.16. And if they can hold there firmly, then we can push higher. We got 44 and 46 to target, and then we see how this here plays out. But they need to break above this here in order to start getting that gap filled. So we just gotta continue to watch to see how that plays out, because they've been holding below that level for a minute. So pretty stalling out right now on Nike. And so we'll keep our eyes on that one. I'm going to be coming back to the charts to watch it. I already got the alerts turned on to see where it breaks and see what we are going to do. But right now, hymns and SoFi are the top two that I'm looking at that's giving sort of the best setup at the moment to actually enter for the $100 to $1,000 challenge. And so I'm just waiting for those levels to hit so that we can actually make a move on that one. And also on hymns, we're kind of working with a double top here, down slot, where we got this here and here. And that's why getting a break below this point here around at 29 would actually be somewhere I will be looking to actually ride the price down, where we would be targeting this low point here at around 27.85. Okay, so if we can break that little piece there and come down, then we could play this to the downside. So that's also what I'm kind of looking for on hymns, and got the alerts turned on. So to see how that kind of plays out on today, to see if we can make a move on that. And remember, I will go live before entering that trade. So I'm not sure how many of you were on the live or saw the other video, to make sure you have your alerts turned on for the $100 to $1,000 challenge group chat. So that way you are able to see when I make a post, say, hey, this is the trade, this is the stop. I'm about to go live really quickly to end the trade. And then, so you don't miss out on that. And I'll get that live recap posted as soon as possible. As soon as we finish, repost it just in case you're not able to make it to the live to see what was done. And you can kind of watch that recap. So they will be brief. It won't be like very long, just a quick 10-15 minutes to actually show you guys entering the trade and why I'm making a move. Okay, so that way you get the charting explanation alongside that strike that's being picked and all of that. So that's what I'm looking at on hymns at this moment. And so what else we have on this? RIVN was another one that I was looking at they have a pennant for me. And they actually, I kind of saw them as a runner up with Hims and Nike as well. Just kind of the penny. You can see here, we got this pennant on this 1 hour and looking for a breakout above that to push higher. So for those of you who may be new to trading or charting and pattern recognition, a pennant is like a flag, where you get that flagpole, but with the pennant, it actually wedges a bit and the price moves. And of course, things start getting a bit smaller. We start getting a wedge and we look for a breakout to the upside. And then you have bear pennants where the flagpole comes down and then the pennant forms in this manner as a wedge. It starts to wedge a bit and then we get a breakout to the downside. Okay, so that's bull pennants and we have bear pennants. The same way we have bull flags and bear flags. That's the same concept, just the flag part just looks a bit different, okay? In this case, we got a pennant. And so I'm definitely watching this here. I see we're up to $17.39. So if we can get a solid break above that, I would definitely look to come back and watch these charts for a potential move here to see if this thing could push up, targeting around 1848 as that upside target. Okay, so I'll be watching that. That's just from this recent, well, I'm saying recent, but this is going back to February rejection right over in here. Okay, so that's another one that I put on the board for us to keep our eyes on for the challenge. Let's come over here to Microsoft. So Microsoft, let me see. Microsoft is sitting at $426.65 in that pre-market. And so with this one, I was looking at this one with someone, I don't remember what we were looking at before. Let me come back up to that 4 hour time frame. And so right now we have this rejection here though at that 431. If they continue to push higher, look for them to test that around that 431.65. They reject there, look for them to potentially come down. That's what we were looking at it for. They were asking, was this considered a double top, or would it be considered a double top because of the way that it's formed out? And so, yeah, that's what we were looking at. And my main thing was the way that we have this little point here and we kind of come down. And if it does decide it wants to come a little bit higher, it could be considered a double top if it retests back up in here. And then, of course, breaking down this little point up in here would bring this price down a little bit more to start retesting some lower levels. Okay, so look for a retest back up there at that 431 to see how well it holds or if it breaks. It can break that 431, then look for them to begin to push a bit higher, okay, which is this little block that I have here around 438 and 442. They break above 442, then they have the ability to test some higher levels. But they would first need to get above 431, where we had this solid rejection here from April 17th, which was Friday last week. Okay, so that's the main part right there that it needs to break to even test any of that. But if they do hit that and they reject, then of course you can start seeing that they retest a little bit lower back to this 426 and then coming back to around this area at around 416 were the primary areas that I was watching. Now here, small gap right up in here. So what is this high point? On this one was about 394, which would be the lowest point in the gap field there. And the top of the gap would be around 396. So breaking down that, they may attempt to come down here and get this gap filled here. Okay, so just keep that in mind to see how that goes. Okay, so we let me come back. So where are we sitting? So RBN has broke. Okay, so we've gotten out of that. And what I would want to see is if they can hold outside of that. So let me write that down to come back to this one to see if this thing holds outside of that pennant. We can get a solid hold out of that. Then we can definitely come back and keep our eye on that one to potentially make a move on. Okay, so we what is it? I have a student that we gotta get at on these charts at 8:45. So I have everything that I wanted to show you guys. A quick recap from that that live that we did on last night. No trades or anything, just a quick recap. So you didn't quite miss anything. I was going to post the replay, but I didn't repost it. So the only thing with that was just kind of, checking in, and because the day was hectic yesterday, very much hectic. But let me see. Let me go back to, let's see what spot opened up at really quickly. See what that is looking like. So we gapped up a bit and sitting at 708. So I want to come and see really quickly how they open up. And of course, keep your eyes on the quickie trade callouts on today, so that I'll be posting over there, of course, 45 minutes to an hour, so that we can let the market do its thing, see where it's going to go. And then I can bring you guys some things to the quickie trade call out, so you can kind of keep your eyes on throughout the day. Okay, so I'm going to be getting prepped for this meeting this morning. I hope you guys have a good day. If you have any questions, as usual, ask me and I'll get to them as quickly as possible. Okay, so you guys have a good Wednesday and a good rest of your day on them charts.